video speeds, getting the stream up, and we are going live in 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, we are here for the season 5 finale of Orange is the New Black, episode 13, Stormy Weather, coming right up.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
The animals trap, trap, trap till the cage is full. The cage is full, the day is new, and everyone is waiting, waiting on you, and you've got time. Think of all the roads, think of all the crossings.
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
I really tried that time.
You could be an astronaut with how long you can hold your breath.
And everyone's probably so happy that this is the finale, so they don't have to hear that anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Until next year. Well, welcome everybody. We are here for the Orange is the New Black season 5 finale already, episode 13, Stormy Weather. I'm Scott Moore. You can follow me on Twitter at sman80. That's sman80. And to my left, camera right.
Hey guys, you can find me everywhere at Sterling Cates.
Hi, I'm Lesley, and you can find me at Lesley the Face on Twitter and Instagram.
Hey y'all, I'm April, and you can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
Yay! And you can follow us on social media here on AfterBuzz at hashtag OITNBABTV. And also, we've got the chat up now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
come chat
We're
with
excited.
us. Yes, because we were chatting about the finale, and it's kind of nice actually just to have one episode to go discuss.
I know.
What an
yes.
episode.
And it
I
was
call it.
great.
Yes.
I don't know, before we get into the whole finale part, did you want to maybe talk about the overall season at large and maybe some of your favorite points and things that you liked or didn't like, or what
Really think that they pulled it off, because when they started off the season and I was like, okay, this whole thing is going to be just the whole riot, and I was like, oh, is this going to work the whole time? And I feel like they pulled it off. I enjoyed it, and it was actually one of my favorite seasons, so I liked it.
I will add to that. Now, having seen the finale, finally, I feel like all of us were so confused during the season talking about it, just because we were like, we don't know if this is going to work. This isn't enough character development, that sort of stuff, because it is such a short period of time, and usually, I mean, the time in the show is weird anyway. But I feel like this season in particular was definitely an experiment for the writers and for the showrunners. So, but having seen the finale now, I am very satisfied with how they wrapped it all up. And I'm also very excited now for the 6th season to see where it goes from here, because there's so many ways that it could.
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely eating my words in a sense, because like we all said, just like you said, how are they going to do this? How are they going to wrap this up? There's so many, loose ends that need to be tied up. And I am like 100% satisfied with the amount that were and with the amount that weren't. And then obviously we see, some reasons why they didn't do things that we were wondering the whole time. Like, why aren't they doing this? What's going on? So I think it was definitely an experiment that played off well.
Yeah, I agree. I had kind of the same thing, especially after those first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, are we really going to go with just this riot for the entire season? And how's it going to work out? I do think they did a brilliant job, because it was an experiment, sort of like you were saying, Sterling, is coming from their timeline. They had the freedom to go months and really let time go by, and here they had 72 hours, and you had just dealt with a very emotional, dramatic moment at the end of season 4, and how are they going to keep this going and be able to have so much go on in such a short amount of time and pull it off too? And I think that they did a really good job with it. And once we delve a little deeper into things, I still have some issues with some of the character development, some things with Piscatella,
for sure,
and other little things here and there. But I think overall it was a solid season. And hopefully once we recap this episode, we'll also have time to maybe go into some predictions of what we think, because there's so many loose ends, on where a season 6 would go now, since we know there's season 6 and 7 at least.
Right.
Where do we think they're going to go with all that? So is there anything else you guys wanted to add as for the overall season?
Yeah, I think my one other comment on that is, for the first 5 seasons, it kind of got to a point where, especially at the end of season 4, where I was like, okay, how are they going to keep this up with the same prison, with the same characters, with that sort of stuff? So now there's so much opportunity to bring in new people, to bring in new environments, and we know that they have, a couple more seasons for sure. So I feel like there's just a lot of opportunity to completely like revamp this show and kind of get us out of Litchfield a little, maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
And I think this season also did a good job. It was very telling on, even though it was just this short period, of people's personalities, and it told us more about their characters, because the way they reacted to the riot maybe gave us more insight into their personality. Some people that kind of blended into the background maybe before, like ended up being very prominent in this, and then other people who were troublemakers are still troublemakers. Someone like Alex, you know, it was like, I'm going to stay away from the drama, and then you see Piper. So I feel like it revealed a lot of everyone's characters. And then now, as we're going to see them, you know, go on their separate ways, perhaps, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm more interested in finding out what's going to happen to them because I learned more.
Yeah,
For sure.
And I think they did a good job, too, this season about still having some of the outsiders, too, in their storylines and keeping them current. And there's so many things that we still have to kind of see what happens, because that is the thing, like you bring up, April, is the fact that it was only 72 hours and there are so many different directions, because there are so many loose ends that were not tied up, that there's a lot that can now happen now with the season 6, and there are so many different directions they could go in because of all those things that weren't tied up so neatly, and because it was such a short period of time, and there's so much that happened in such a short amount of time. So it'll be fascinating to see how they move forward with that. But just getting into the meat of the episode, you know, just the opening up of that, because at the end of 12, we saw basically they were coming in, the riot police were ready to storm the building, and we start basically right where we left off at the end of 12, and I loved, like we were talking about just off camera before with Etta James, and always getting that kind of stuff where you've got like the Stormy Weather song, but then you're seeing the craziness going on with the riot police coming in and barreling in and trying to take back control now of the prison. What was your first thought when you guys when they first went in? Were you thinking this is just going to be mayhem and this is going to be really end really badly? Did you think anybody was going to have any issues?
Go ahead, April.
I thought it was a little, you know, first thing that they do basically is they have that like shock tray. I have no idea what it's called, but you know, the thing that they were holding that was like yay high and that shocks people. That's the first thing that they did, and it's like, wait, she clearly like has nothing in her hand. Like, why are you doing that? So I thought they were gonna use maybe actually a little more force than they did. There is the part of me that does go back to think, because of course us watching it, we have a connection to these characters. We automatically think like, oh, any kind of force or whatever used on them is a bad thing. But then I did kind of get reminded of, okay, it is a prison. They did just like riot, and there are people trying to stand up against them.
Guys,
now,
hold your cell phones away from the mics, please. Thank you.
Thank you. But I think it's a thing of, I thought it was going to go worse than it did, and I thought it was relatively realistic, I guess. It was interesting to me to see that they were still pretty like brutal, let's say. Definitely not as brutal as the COs have been this season, and as, you know, as far as them not being trained and everything. And, you know, I liked the part where they showed the guy, you know, holding the gun right here, and he's like, no, shoot up, that's not the aim. Where, you know, this whole season and last season, the aim with the COs was to hurt and to harm and to kind of traumatize the people. So I almost appreciated the fact that it wasn't just like, okay, like, you know, handling everyone with kid gloves. It seemed realistic, but then at times, obviously, it definitely seemed like a bit more intense than it needed to be.
And then with the CEOs, I feel like you saw bits of both. Like some of them, like, oh, okay, they're taking certain precautions, they're doing this. But then other times, they felt like some of their behavior mimicked some of the ones that the untrained CEOs had. And then it also kind of, it's disillusioning because it's like, oh, okay, this is supposed to be like the professional top grade SWAT team, but they still are susceptible to a lot of the same mentalities and errors that the untrained people do. So it made me fearful for like what's going to happen to everybody.
Yeah, the fact that this was the professional SWAT team and they still had that young kid that didn't really know how to use any of the weapons and that sort of stuff, or the proper protocol. That's still, I mean, that's the problem. It's just the system as a whole. It doesn't really matter what level you're on. That's what's messed up. But
and I thought they brought a good point with that too, which we'll get into in a little bit.
And April, going off what you were saying, I agree with, like, I kind of felt like they were going to be more violent. When they stormed, I was like, oh my God, they're about to kill everyone in here. And that was just the way, I guess, it was set up in my mind. But it was interesting to see that they were almost more aggressive with the people who surrendered. Like when Lorna went out, she's like, "I'm pregnant, just like walk me out." And they're like, you know, we don't see what actually happens to her, but in my head, I imagine it was.
Yeah, well, they told her to get down and
but there were
cussed her
so
out.
many powerful scenes and images that they showed during this episode, like the one with So-So.
Oh my gosh.
Just tears, just crying. And then obviously the one at the end. But yeah, so it was interesting to see how they handled it versus what I thought it was going to be.
I know, because I think the same thing too. I thought at first they were just going to come in and just wipe everyone out, essentially, just be incredibly violent, try to end it really fast. I love the beginning where they're down in the bunker and they hear all the commotion up above, and Frida's like, "Yeah, I think the riot police are probably in now, 25 of them or so." And at this point, they're coming in, and it was hilarious because it brought a nice levity to it. But it was interesting that a lot of the women down in the bunker decided to leave, because to me, I would have thought my natural instinct would be I want to stay where I'm protected. I don't want to run out, because they had no idea what was going on up there.
I think they thought, like, okay, obviously something's happening. If we, like, give up, then... Or that's exactly what they said. If we give up, you know, maybe they'll know we were innocent and didn't want anything to do with it. Because my initial thought was, like, okay, y'all just need to go. Like, because it's just like Lorna did, how she walked out. Like, you know, hands up, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. You would think that would be the smarter thing to do.
Right.
But then I guess, you know, they did have Piscatella in there at the time. So somebody clearly had to stay.
Right.
But I don't know. I kind of like went both ways as far as...
I was the same. I was conflicted, and I feel like that's really amazing that the show was able to do that, because I was like, wait, I don't know what the best option is. Like, should they go out or should they stay put? Which one's going to put them more in the line of fire? And I couldn't tell.
I thought of that when Red said to them, "We're going to be safer down here." I was like, well, how does Red know? I mean, she has experience, but you know what I mean? Like, how does she know for sure that they're going to be better down
All
there?
I thought was the fact that they're supposedly, which found out later, maybe not so much, but I thought they were in a secure space that nobody knew that they were down there. Nobody knew it existed. They had plenty of food and everything, and water supposedly. So I thought, hey, the best thing is to just wait it out, let it calm down, because I kept thinking the moment you walk out of that safety and there's firing weapons or violence going on, that they're going to immediately be caught up into it, because it would be harder to walk out and leave and not know what was going on. So in my opinion, I thought it seemed odd that so many of them were like, let's go out right now, instead of waiting to see how it would kind of calm down a little bit first, because I felt like they were in relative safety and obscurity. But I get both sides to it too, because I thought, yeah, you're right, maybe if you do walk out, you're ending it quickly and it's easy, but it just felt like they were in a safe space then to walk away from it.
Yeah, you kind of know, like, eventually you're gonna get caught. Like, even if no one knew about, you know, the old pool or the room where they were, it's like, you can't stay in there forever. You're gonna eventually have to do something. So that's why, you know, at first thought I was kind of like, okay, so just go. Like, just, like, get it over as soon as you possibly can, because I mean, that's where it's gonna end up being anyway.
Eventually.
But then, you know, obviously they did the right thing staying at the same time too. So
one thing I was trying to figure out is when one of the SWAT guys tells them that there's 10 people missing, but so there's 10 down in the bunker now. But then Pennsatucky is in that cabin.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of it.
I wrote it down. Who escaped?
The lady.
Oh, Chang.
Chang
escaped.
Chang escaped, which was
and so they're counting Linda, and she's not really a prisoner, so that's like one more. And then maybe Maria, because she's over there with her family.
Oh, yeah, maybe. That's true.
And then that makes up for the 2.
Yeah,
but then there's one more, because that would be Maria Pennsatucky. Or maybe they are counting. So maybe they're not counting. They're counting Linda.
They're definitely counting
there's
Linda.
that's 11.
There's like one person off.
Right, there's still one person, because I kept thinking that too. I'm like, their numbers are
I
off.
like literally wrote down all the names. I'm like Frida, Red, Piper, Alex.
I know.
And then, so I maybe they don't have, I was like, are they counting Maria, Linda, and Daya? They're obviously not counting Chang and Pennsatucky. I don't know.
Well, that's what I thought
know.
too. They were off on the numbers, and I kept trying to figure that out too. I'm like, were they... I don't know how they got the numbers and what they were, but they were definitely off, because you're right, because I was saying the same thing. They weren't counting her, and they weren't counting Pennsatucky.
Right.
So
And Linda's definitely in the count
Linda's
now.
in the count in the
Someone
mix.
we're forgetting, because I feel like they made a point to
say
mention
that
the numbers.
twice.
Yeah, that's what was very odd
And he
about
was
it.
like, we've got every single guard
Yeah.
counting.
I wonder, I mean, if anyone mentions on chat, because I actually, that was something I thought about, and I kept thinking the number is off.
Yeah.
Maybe there's
And
someone
why?
we didn't see that somehow was hiding, or I don't know.
It was
there.
very it was very interesting. No, because I did the same thing you did, and I went back and watched it. I'm like, wait, their numbers are definitely off, and I couldn't figure out if that was on purpose or if that was because you.
Wait, so
Yeah.
they're too
If
short
they're-
then, right?
no.
If they're saying we're missing 10, but there are 10 people in the bottom,
So
but
there's
they're
12
counting Linda.
So there's 12 people missing altogether.
missing
Okay.
Not,
altogether,
and this is like assuming they're including Daya and Maria.
Okay.
Who Maria's like over there with her family. This is
Right.
assuming she's accounted for.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So there's 12 that aren't outside. So Frida, Red, Piper, Alex, Flores, Nikki, Cindy, Suzanne, Tasty, Gloria, Chang, and Pensateki. And then I'm assuming they're counting Linda since
Right.
she's out there for the
Right.
count.
Yeah.
So then that would be one more. So they're like
Right.
one off.
One off, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we're for where is Sophia? Oh wait, no, she left
turned
earlier.
herself
Yeah,
into
she
the
turned
max.
She
herself
turned
into
herself
Max,
in early.
yes.
That, real smart,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah,
Definitely.
avoided all that.
Yeah.
But I missed her this season.
I know.
know, I
That's
did
what I'm wondering
too.
about. Part of my thing for next season.
That's
what's
got to
going
be
on with
something, but I
all
don't even
that.
know if that's like something small that. I mean, we don't have an episode
I
after
don't know,
that.
it's true though. They wouldn't have said it. I feel like twice.
Yeah.
Well, that's what because when they brought it up again, that's when I thought, well, what's the reasoning behind this? Because
Secretly
you know
That it's something.
because you know that if they were off just
Yeah.
because it happens, you know, people aren't perfect and they miss it in post and editing and all
Yeah.
that they wouldn't have brought it up the second time. When
Yeah.
they did the second time, that's where I'm like, they did it on
Well,
purpose
see,
to
someone
make
like
me
If
Chang
think.
is a character we don't normally remember.
Right,
So I feel
that's
like
what
maybe
I'm
there's
saying.
a character over the 5 seasons that we've seen that maybe
Right.
we've forgotten, and
Yeah.
maybe they're gonna like she's
Yeah.
somewhere completely on her own.
I don't
It
know.
might be
Or
fun.
that number was including Maria, so or they're not counting Maria because she's over there
Yeah.
with her
Yeah.
husband and. Or
I don't know.
maybe.
It was interesting because I
she's not
had
in
the
the
same.
lineup.
Yeah.
I had the same thoughts on that. So I don't know if anyone has anything to say.
Any
in chat,
theories?
or
That could
any
have just been a
theories.
mistake, but maybe not.
I thought the same thing, but then when they mentioned it the second time, that's when I started thinking, well, maybe there's a reason behind
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And because I always feel like sometimes they're so good at what they do with the details that they
Right.
mentioned it on for whatever reason that was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have Gloria still trying to run to Caputo's office because she wants to make the call to get
Mm-hmm.
a hold of her son. So she's in her own little world separate from everyone else. So she goes back there and hides, which I also thought was risky. But then I thought, I guess, you know, the riot police were not going to look in there because the window, it was dark. But I still thought, God, it seems like a very easy place to hide, that someone would want to sweep that to make sure nobody was there.
It
I don't
seemed
know.
like a natural thing that they would just kind of like open every
right.
door.
It just
so it's,
seemed
like,
very
light in
obvious,
there,
like a very
but-
obvious place to hide.
Yeah.
Like right in the middle of everything. But then on the flip side, maybe because it would seem so obvious and it was dark and they're busy with other stuff, they walk right past it. But I thought
Right.
it seemed very like obvious. Like I'm
Yeah.
just shocked that nobody went in there.
Right.
Turned on the lights and made sure
Yeah.
nobody was in there.
I guess for the purpose of us hearing that her
Sure.
son is okay.
Right.
Yeah.
you
Which
know,
we
to let her
needed
get
that.
away with that. Yeah.
Which we needed that because we did need to know what was going on and we wanted to have that little bit of resolution there because if that would have been a lot to be hanging over now.
Right.
Going into the next place, she was
Right.
not going to get any call or any kind
right.
of
So we kind of need
indication
to
of
get
what
that
was
taken care of. So
happening
for
outside.
the
Yeah.
And especially now that we don't know what happens to her, at least she knows that her
right,
son's
their
okay.
son's
Yeah.
going to be okay. Exactly. And then we had Nick and Morello having some great moments in this episode too, and it's really great to see their friendship through all the ups and downs and the the attractions they have that run a little deeper than a normal friendship. There's a lot of layers there,
Right.
but at the end of all of that, it's really great to see how supportive that Nikki is for
Right.
Lorna.
Lorna
Yeah.
through everything she's going through. with
Right.
I feel like
pregnancy
this
and-
season we saw a lot of growth with Nikki because I mean
Yes.
she's been such a hot mess in the
She
past.
has.
I feel
Right.
like she really was the caretaker this season
Yeah.
Yeah,
for Morello and for Red.
which we brought up on a previous episode
Yeah.
about that, is how it was great to see the tables had turned when Red was the one that sort of needed the support from all the time when she was coming off of her own drug stuff, that for so many seasons she was doing that for Nikki.
Right.
So it was really
And
great to see
this
that flip.
is someone who broke her heart, you
Right.
know, many times,
Yeah.
and yet she's still like putting her first
Exactly.
and making sure that she's happy. I just feels like I don't know. I feel like I really liked her a lot this
Like a
season.
certain
She's grown
maturity
so
that
much,
she
yeah,
had to deal with.
and
that she-
selflessness.
Mhm.
And it really showed just a sense of maturity when she did when she was there for Lorna at the end there when she was freaking out and she was like 5 more minutes, which 5 minutes in a riot like seems like a lot of
lot.
time. But also the fact that, you know, last episode we saw her talk to Vinny And she didn't even bring that up, and she didn't need to,
Yeah.
because that made it when Vinny came later, like he did it on his own, and that meant more for Lorna to see that he wasn't forced to be there, and that he believed her on his own. Hopefully he doesn't
They had a nice
say
moment.
Nikki called or whatever, but
Which maybe he, I don't know, I feel like you would at some point just naturally bring that up, like, oh, well, Nikki called and it was really, we had this great conversation, and, you know, it just feels like an obvious thing that you would bring up, or vice versa.
For Nikki, though, when you want to be with someone, I feel like you would want to like be like, oh, well, I did this,
right,
brag about it. Don't worry, I talked to him. Don't worry, I fixed it. That sort of thing. But instead, she was just like, it's gonna be okay, and then it was.
Yeah, because that is a bigger thing to do, to be able to step back from the attraction part of it and separate yourself from that, and be able to say, okay, this is bigger than me at this point. And to be, like you said, to have that maturity and that kind of growth to be able to do that when she has been in such a selfish place in the seasons past, and or just totally bonked out on drugs and everything that she couldn't think clearly. So it was really great to see that, and it was great to have her have more of a role this season too, because we've had some of the previous seasons too where she didn't have much to do. Besides being a little bit of a foil there, or being the one that was just the crazy
I've always thought she's like one of the smartest people, I think, in the prison, but you don't get to see that.
No, you don't get to see that.
That's just because she's always acting super selfishly, and she's high, and she's trying to get drugs and all this stuff. So to see her sober, taking care of everyone else, it's just, who is this person? You know, it's completely different.
She's all grown up.
Character. She's all grown up. And she got a makeover, so
right?
Really living
looked
her
on
best
point.
life. Living her best prison life. Anyway.
Yeah, it was great, and I loved being able to have her have that opportunity with just that character development. And I think the writers did a great job with that too, where it's a fine line where it doesn't come across too cheesy or fake, or it wouldn't be in her character's norm to do something like that. I love when the moms are outside too.
Oh, I know.
And you had Piper's mom, and you had Suzanne's mom out there, and it was just like, aww.
Yeah.
It was really a sweet moment. Because both of these moms are going through a very similar traumatic experience, thinking about the safety of their daughters in there. And it was just a really sweet moment that I loved it.
Right.
It was just important to have that softer moment there.
And especially seeing what Suzanne is going through inside. But knowing that her mom is outside was a little comforting.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely. But speaking of Suzanne, that was a big part of this episode.
Right.
And we start out with the fact that she's not waking up. She's really out of it from the lithium. And did you have a moment where you were nervous about that, thinking was the end of it?
Well, because I just felt the death coming. Not necessarily with her, but I just felt it in the episode.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I mean, that would be a crazy character shakeup, if they had done that.
They can't get rid of her.
Definitely for a little bit I thought that, but then I was like, there's just no way they can do that.
I know.
So seeing her kind of, essentially come back to life was like an uplifting part of the episode that we definitely needed, because a lot of other stuff was just so heavy.
And then even the way she was just acting afterwards, she was happy, normal, rested Suzanne, and eating peanut butter. It was
out of the jar, like Winnie the Pooh, like with honey. It was like Winnie the Poohing it.
I loved it.
Yeah, but also she was very insightful. Like her whole analogy with, the clouds are just your feeling and the sky is your reality and all that stuff. And I was like, that is such a good way to look at it. I was just like, wow. That was really insightful. And then she got cut off, unfortunately.
She just needed some rest.
But I feel like Suzanne, in the past couple of episodes anyway, have been more in support of Tasty and Tasty's performance. And I feel like, I talk about her every week, and you guys are probably sick of it, but I love her so much.
I
really think that she needs to be up for the Emmy. You know,
absolutely.
Especially this past season.
Absolutely.
But
she's a nomination and maybe a win, because it was her season.
Absolutely,
She was
this was her season.
Absolutely.
And I really enjoyed watching Tasty this episode and the finale kind of come to terms with how she did act in those negotiations. Was it really for Pusey? Was it for her pride? I don't think it necessarily was her pride that got in the way. There's probably some hints of that in there. But I do think, and we saw this at the end with the final scene between her and Piscatella, that she just hasn't really had the chance to grieve.
Right.
And I think hopping on those negotiations was her way of processing Pusey's death, and whether it was effective or not, at the end we finally get to see her have this like cathartic experience with what has happened and kind of come full circle. And I really enjoyed watching her journey.
Yeah.
Through that the past
and I
few
feel
episodes.
like we've gotten some small doses of her past, right? And she's never gotten a chance to really like find like her passion or her strengths. And I feel like in the negotiations she shined. You know, like you got to see that, you know, she would be really good at whatever field of industry she went in. And I don't know, I felt like maybe she felt confident in that in herself, like through trying to do this crusade for Pusey. She's also found like some strength that she had never gotten a chance to tap into before this because she's been behind bars or in tough circumstances.
For sure.
I mean, she's always like, we've seen her kind of take care of Suzanne this, you know, throughout the entire series, and Pusey, you know, before she passed away. But I think it was just the perfect way to have her not have to like actually deal with what was going on. And, you know, just like how they say, like you mentioned, you know, it being her pride, I don't think it was really that. I think it was just her being so in her head, like, okay, no, this terrible, terrible thing happened, so all of these things have to happen, or it's not justified, when really, like, nothing was gonna justify it, no matter what.
Right.
So, you know, her final scene with, you know, just the emotion that she just gives out.
That was
is
the winning performance right there.
It's
You took everything out from the season and you had that one moment there.
It's
that
very
was the
difficult, and because, I mean, of course, we're like all huge fans of everyone on this show, some a little more than others, but it's very difficult to me to kind of outshine, in a sense, Suzanne. Not that she did, because Suzanne had, of course, insanely amazing, you know, scenes this season, but that just kind of like took the cake for me right there. Just the way it just felt like such like real, raw emotion.
It felt so raw and real. Exactly.
Right.
You're
and
exactly right on that.
What did you guys think about, since we're talking about her her speech, not little, it's a very huge speech at the end, but how did you guys feel about Piscatella's response, like, you don't want to be like me, you don't want to act like me, that sort of thing? Because I felt really torn, because I was like, no, because obviously I didn't want her to shoot him, because I want the best for her, and that's not going to end well for her.
Exactly.
I didn't really care if Piscatella died or not, to be completely honest. Which is probably, I need to reflect on that. But
I agree.
But I was like, I don't care about him, I care about her.
Yeah.
So, and I obviously
I was
shooting
really
him
nervous
was,
that she was gonna do it.
Exactly.
It
but
was too,
I
'cause
like
emotions.
his lines though seemed genuine, but I didn't feel bad for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was very torn with his response, because I like kind of wanted to be like, yeah, you don't want it, because then it kind of came full circle with what he did in his past with the flashback. So maybe we did get a little bit of something from his flashback, but it still didn't come full circle for me with his background.
No, me either.
I think that the reason why I literally feel the exact same way as you, I definitely didn't feel bad for him, but it was the first, like, to me, truly genuine moment that he's had this whole time, because if you notice throughout the episode, you know, they are talking about Alex killing the guard, because Red mentions that, and you just, and they keep flashing back to him sitting over there, and you kind of see his face, like, understanding maybe a little more, not to say he was understanding of them, but I think he actually meant it in the sense of, like, I think he knew, like, okay, at this point, like, something bad is just gonna happen, you know. I don't think he thought that he was gonna get away, but it seemed like genuine, like this hurt, this, you know, pain that she felt, he saw it, and he was like, you don't want to be like me, you don't want to have to go through the same thing.
I think he was completely genuine in that moment. I felt like him and Red have a weird competitive thing, and when it was like Red threatening him, and it was almost like he was still like full of bravado, still showing her, but I feel like when Tasty had that moment, and you know, she just lost in the negotiation, she came so close, and now she literally has nothing. That's why I was afraid she was really going to do it, because it's like, well, this is the only thing she can do is kill him, even though she might lose a bit of
have
her
that
soul.
Control and have that moment of control there.
And I feel like like you said, he saw that, and I feel like that's why, even though I didn't really care as far as him, like, I do feel like that was realness. He was literally trying to say, like, please don't do this. He saw that in her. And I'm glad it resonated regardless of what happened.
Well, and I think that for Red, seeing Tasty in that position where she, like, Red probably thought she was going to kill him.
Yeah.
And so that probably put a lot of things in perspective for Red because it all comes back to her. He's in there because of her, whatever. And it's honestly, and Alex just had that whole conversation. Was it worth it? Is this whole thing worth it? Worth him having him in here? Whatever. So I think that whole scene just wrapped up really nicely with Red making that decision to let him go,
which ended up being perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it was almost the braver option.
Yeah.
Was to let him
for
go.
sure,
You know,
for sure.
like, it was a more difficult thing to be able to let him go free like that, and it was the bigger thing to do. And
they could have easily killed him and
Right.
been like, oh, it was self-defense. Oh, he was doing this. They already
Absolutely,
have
because
this
they have the video. That's what
or
I'm saying.
he escaped and they can do something with his body or
Exactly.
whatever.
So
I don't
that
know.
to me was the
Yeah.
fact that they were able to do that in the middle of all of that, and even like going back to Tasty and trying to process everything. We think that was only like 4 days ago when Crusade died. So it's all still so raw. She hasn't slept. She said that in the previous episodes.
She hasn't dealt with it.
She's been up the whole time, so she's not thinking clearly. And to have that moment, that breakdown moment, and still not basically just blow his head off was incredible. Because, like you were saying, April, it just felt so raw and real. You felt like it was really happening in real time, and it was so difficult. And I didn't really even know what was going to happen because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, is she just going to blow his head off because she can't deal with it anymore?
Yeah.
And that's going to be dramatic. Because either way, we would watch as a viewer and be like, this was dramatic. And people, as you know, the audience would be very happy in a way because Piscatel was the villain of this season in a way. And it would be a good comeuppance and all this stuff. So, but then you would think about the consequences later. But that's something you could think about in a future season. But
in the chat, Ashley Lyles just said the whole season's theme was "This is bigger than me," and that's such a good point because it is. It's like I was literally just popped into my head about how we started the season with a prisoner holding a gun to a CO, and then we ended the same way. And how like different those. Well, obviously the scenarios are different. You have people yelling and pressuring. You know, much different scenarios.
But different scenarios, just and different.
Exactly, and it's like they
Yeah.
learned, and it's different people, but. You know, Daya in that moment whenever she shot the officer, she was like, this is the only thing I have to do. There's so many people yelling. And in a sense, this is bigger than me. You know, like what's happening. And then that's kind of how it ended up with, you know, Tacy obviously ended up making the wrong decision when it comes to the negotiations anyway.
Making the right decision
right.
in that moment.
Exactly.
And I just loved the way it unfolded. It was so poetic. I was just like, the whole time when he runs out, and then, you know, what did you guys think of that moment when he got shot?
I just thought it was so fitting that untrained guards or whoever shot him and killed him
the
in the
whole
face.
thing he's been like going against, like, oh, we're this, we're this, we're this.
The whole thing he caused. And instead of Tasty killing him, the fact that his own system that he's enforced is the thing that took him down
with the same attitude that he had.
And not only that did I think it was like super fitting and I felt satisfied by it, but I also think that now that they've killed him outside of it, I feel like now they'll enter down there a little more careful.
Yes, exactly.
And they won't kill everyone.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because now they have two guards that are dead. They have Piscatella and they found the other guy.
Humps, right.
And they found Humps. So
they're going to
it's
actually
like,
think before shooting, which is what they should do. But
well, it could go two ways.
They
could either be like, oh wow, they're really like fighting back.
Yes.
We need to go in there
or like
aggressively.
revenge in a way,
Or
revenge because they're taking out the guards.
Right.
We're gonna
even though they just took out the guard.
Right. But they're
you
thinking,
know that's gonna come back on.
But my
They're thinking
initial
pumps and everything
reaction
there.
was maybe they'll pump the brakes a little bit.
I think they will.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I hope, but
they can't wipe out the whole main cast.
No.
That's not gonna happen.
No, but to do something dramatic because, like I was going back to, I will say it was a little too. Yeah, exactly. Everyone just and that's it. And that's it for season 6. I thought it was too. It was good, but it was also like okay, it was sort of. I don't want to say contrived, but it was sort of like okay, he walked out and then
on the nose.
Yeah.
Really?
And he
I was
walks
like-
and he got killed right away. I mean, I thought it was
like,
good because we needed that closure, but it felt a little too easy and convenient at that moment. I almost just wanted a little bit more of him having to deal with something before he was just shot the minute he walked out. So there's a little bit of that.
They had that discussion earlier where he was like, "You can't shoot right at them. You have to shoot at like."
Right.
It was almost like foreshadow. Like
yeah,
this is
well,
he's
of
not gonna
course,
listen.
of course.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it like going back to probably what April was thinking last episode when she had made like, oh, one of them's gonna either Alex or
Accidentally,
Piper
sure.
or something because of the whole proposal. So I started thinking like, oh yeah, that's foreshadowing for one of the main
Yeah.
characters.
I
didn't
thought the
Okay,
same
think
that's what I thought. I
it was
thought
going
that
to be Piscatella, and that's why when kind of going back to Suzanne with that whole moment where I thought, oh my God, she's dead, I went both ways because I thought they clearly don't care about taking out main characters anymore
Right,
because
sure.
they did that with Pusey last season. But then at the same time, like, well, is that now going to be now too much because now they're doing it again in the season finale of the next season and they're
Yeah.
killing off a main character, and I'm like, I don't see that happening the same way. So then I started thinking there's no way, and especially Suzanne, I'm like, there's no way they're going to get rid of her. But then at
Yeah.
the same time, I thought maybe they would because it was, so I went back and forth in that moment because when they shot her with the EpiPen and she didn't wake up right away, I thought,
Yeah.
oh my God, maybe they really are going to do this and they're going to take us down that path. But I thought it was really great when she woke up and was like, hey, what do you got? What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and that was
great.
such a great scene when they came down. First of all, when they went down there too, and,
Right.
And
they
they're all
kind
like
of-
holding hands.
Yeah.
and they're all working together
Yeah.
now for a positive, good cause together. And,
Yeah.
and because they had been in their separate spaces and they had their separate priorities like Tasty had, and they have them come together at the end there as one cohesive group.
Yeah,
and
that's
sort of
good. And that
our lead
imagery
group that
there,
we've
yeah.
loved since season 1, and they were
Yeah.
all there together.
Hand in hand, like arm in arm. It was-
Literally
yeah.
arm in, it was really a powerful moment.
Speaking of teams, I really wanted to talk about the fact that I don't remember all of their names, but Team Latte,
Yeah.
like coming
Yeah.
together at the end, and like
Finally.
I don't know, it was such a nice. I really appreciated it because again, you got to see like different people sort of shine this season, and they kind of had a friendship, but then they fell off, but then at the end they still like get together. And I don't know, I was kind of like, I wanted them to fight a little, some of the inmates with like the SWAT people, because they were already getting on my nerves. So just to
Right.
see them like
Yeah.
fight back a little.
Oh, I love
They
and
were
that.
like
very
give them some
creative.
help.
That was very creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the Home
Home
Alone
Alone
thing.
stuff.
Yes. It
I
also
loved it.
reminded me of the
Yeah.
scene. For some reason, this is where my mind went. In Parent Trap, where they set
Oh,
up the
yeah,
couch.
yes, yeah, that's
and
right.
they like
Yeah.
do the honey and all
Yeah.
that stuff. I just
Yeah.
thought
It was-
it reminded me of like a summer camp.
Yeah, and it was sort of like their.
but like a hardcore.
It was some
summer
nice
camp.
levity in the
Yeah.
episode, and
But it was also like in a weird way. But it was like they're protecting their turf.
Yeah.
They're protecting their home from these invaders that were coming in. It's sort of that weird thing because it's like they're trapped in a way because they're in prison.
Yeah.
But in a way, that's now their home. And now you have these intruders coming into your home, and it's like they're protecting their home from these outsiders. And I thought that was kind of an interesting juxtaposition
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
what you normally think
and they're
about.
uniting, and these
Yeah,
are
and
two
they're
groups
working
that
together.
would have
Right, they were
never
so
spoken
split.
to each other,
Mhm.
would have
Yeah.
hated each other until
Yeah.
they were released and still gone on about their racist ways. But I don't know, they found like common ground, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
But they also like both groups individually
Yeah.
had been fighting for the past 4 days in their own ways,
Mhm.
Right.
against whatever, and now to see them come together finally, it's like maybe we should have all come together
In
in
the
the beginning of
beginning.
this. But
I definitely thought it was gonna go a different way. I thought, people start fighting back, you're just gonna like get shot pretty much. But I'm happy that they didn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
they like carried them out in those little burrito things. You know?
That was
Like,
pretty comfortable,
yeah.
actually.
I know,
I was
right?
like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't have to walk. That's kind of
I know.
nice.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, can I get one of those? Carry me around.
Yeah.
I also before we get to, because I know we only have a few minutes left, and I want to get to everything with the episode, the finale, and hopefully we have some time to talk about predictions. I can't speak anymore by the end of the night, but I love the Floritza scene too,
Oh,
my gosh,
and
love
I thought
it.
we definitely have to talk about that because it was sad, and that kind of goes into what we think is going to happen with season 6. But when the women are all sort of just split up from each other, and it was really
They
crushing.
built up to it so well because
Yes.
we've always known they were friends, but this
Right.
whole season they really bonded over their social media
Yeah,
presence,
and their
and then
YouTube
they
vids.
posted their
blog.
last video online.
I know. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my
and
god.
that was like one of the saddest moments for
It
me in that
was.
episode.
I cried. I'm not afraid to.
No.
admit it.
Yeah.
But it was also interesting to see because that storyline this season has been a moment of like you said, levity for just in general because there's all this like other stuff going on. But
Right.
then their scenes were always lighthearted and funny and cute, whatever. But this was actually really intense because you see the meaning behind it. Like it gave them a sense of freedom. It gave them like this like taste of
A
freedom,
purpose.
a purpose, that sort of stuff. So it gave that whole storyline meaning for me instead of it just being a little lighthearted moment that it was
Absolutely.
in that episode.
Exactly. Like
And
there was
then-
more of a point to it.
And then it made the end when they get separated.
Yeah.
That's when all the tears came.
I mean,
Yeah.
Roxy even said it in
It
the
was just
episode.
so
She was
sad.
like,
Mhm.
I'm good at this. And, like, you know, this is something she could have done, like,
Mhm.
as a career,
Yeah.
you know, and she doesn't get to. And she's like, how am I going to go back to, like, just living my life? You know,
Right.
it's easier when you don't know about it. And it sucks. It was really hard, I don't know, to see that. And then also, I feel like just it's really nice to see the friendship. Like, that's just, like, two friends who, like, really care about each other. They even said, like, you know, if we hadn't gotten here, we would have never met. Like, that's kind of crazy. That's how much their friendship means to them. It
Right.
was really nice.
It was really,
Yeah.
really sweet, and how
They
much
don't
they really
regret the
cared for
crimes.
each other. No,
Yeah.
it was really sad. But I also love the fact they had fans too.
Yeah,
They
I
did.
know. No, that was so great.
I know
That
they
was
had
so
signs
great.
that was really
They even
cute.
appreciated, like, their sexist comments. They were like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you for liking my tits
They're
or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
They
it
like
was-
perked him up a little
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, that was so funny. So at least there was a little bit of that lightheartedness, but all the way to the end. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it had a good point there to be able to see that they did care about each other and to see that this happens, you know, when people are separated and it was out of their control, and it made me really sad to think about where everyone's going to go, and it made me think about where is everyone going to be in season 6? And
Yeah.
Well, we've seen like complete separations before,
We
and
have.
then like I don't think it's gonna go the same way that it did last time,
Right.
where like everyone's magically back together again.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, that's a prediction thing that we can talk about, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be a little different than last time.
It is. It's going to be interesting. And I also love that Maria had that moment with her kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I thought that was nice too, because earlier, you know, I don't know if it was 10 or when they were sort of showing the current, not
Of him like in the
flashbacks.
grocery store.
Right,
Yeah.
when everything
Yeah.
was like current,
Right.
but you were seeing their loved ones, everybody out doing their real life, everyday activities, and you had that moment. So it was a nice way of being able to take that moment that they had and bring it in, so that there was a connection there. So when
Yeah.
Maria saw her kid and her baby daddy,
Yeah.
it was great to have that moment, and that she had that freedom too, which was really interesting to me, because you're
Yeah.
thinking about in such a tight situation there with the riot and everything, that they were pretty lenient for these women when they went outside.
Right.
But they
Well,
had that moment with people, and they were able to have that, you know,
I think the governor's rep,
aid
yeah, what's
or-
her name?
yeah.
I think she realized that Maria's not going to get off or get whatever she was looking
Mhm.
for by bringing the hostages out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So she's like, you know what? Let me
Let her have
give
that
her
moment.
Yeah.
those 5 minutes with her
Mhm.
family,
Mhm.
because I don't think that it's going to end well for her.
Yeah.
it's
I don't
not.
think so either.
She's not going to
Mhm.
get the break she was looking for.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. And I agree with you on that one. Which made me sad too, for her to have that moment, but also for her to have that moment, because Maria's so tough, and we've seen her be so tough and
Yeah.
be the boss and be in control, and no holds bar, anything going on, and then to have that softer moment with her was really kind of nice too, for us to see that side of her.
It's kind of
That's
like back to the
nice.
Maria that we saw in the first few seasons
Yes.
before the thing happened, where she
Right.
got the time added to her sentence.
Yes.
She
Because-
became so
She became
unlikable.
so-
yeah, she really
hardened from
wasn't that
No,
person
she
whatsoever.
wasn't.
She was like the nice one
Right.
who was friends with everyone.
Yeah.
So I kind of didn't. I mean, obviously, I get why they took her character
Right,
where
and
they
hardened
did.
her from everything but it was nice
Yeah.
to see her have that moment again too.
For sure.
Because the fact she'd gotten to the point where she was almost so unlikable, to bring it back in a little bit was really nice. And of course, we still have the Linda Boost stuff going on. And
Yeah.
I love where Linda's out there in lunch. She's like, I work at MCC, and she was like,
Me too.
I work at MCC.
Yeah.
I loved that.
That's
like,
so
you're not
smart,
getting
though.
away with
Yeah.
it
It
so
was.
fast.
Yeah.
And then there's Leanne and Angie.
I know they're gonna get high
burning-
one more
oh.
time.
But
At the
burning all
bleach.
the
Burning all the records.
records, which I think
Yeah.
is great. I'm
It
hoping
was.
somehow that helps the situation. I'm not sure, because I'm sure
They-
everything's backed up electronically.
Yeah, I was
but
going to say they have to have digital files,
You
but
would think,
maybe,
but maybe
not.
And Litchfield, like,
Especially-
God knows
Anything
what's
goes
happening
Right,
in there.
and the fact
yeah.
that they're having this private company run it, and they're probably not even caring about
Yeah.
that stuff, because
Yeah.
they probably never thought in a million years that they'd have to worry about it, because
Right.
the papers are just going to be there forever.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
but-
and maybe just like little things like their shots or
Right.
like whatever they
Yeah.
Yeah.
get won't add up anymore.
Like the
Right.
extra time that
Yeah.
he was like,
Yeah,
oh, this
yeah, like when they
probably
get
isn't gonna
shots
record.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like they talked about earlier in the
I wouldn't even
season.
be surprised if there's like missing people that they just don't have. Like
Right.
Chang, who
Yeah.
just ran out,
Yeah.
maybe they just don't find her file and that's it. They don't look for her. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past the show.
I
to,
kind
like,
of think
Also-
she's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, you know
Like-
what the other number could be? The chef. What's her name? Because she was
Oh.
supposed to get released, and then that same day
Judy
the riot
King?
started. Judy.
Oh, maybe.
But Yeah.
But she's gone now.
But she's gone, and she was already going to be
I'm
released.
just confused how they're
I don't
getting
know.
the numbers.
I know. No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
there
don't
with
know.
you, and if anyone
I'm still
in
thinking
chat-
about that.
No, because it's true. I was thinking the same thing
Yeah.
that day.
'Cause,
I went back and watched it.
like,
and
are
tried
they
to
including Sophia even though she's already surrendered? Are they
Yeah.
including Judy even though
Mhm.
she was supposed to be released
Released
that
that
same
day,
day?
yeah.
I actually think we're probably thinking too much into it.
I know
We
we
know.
are.
Yeah.
I know.
And
We're
that is
probably
just
right
like-
with the number, but we're like,
Yeah.
let me
I was
double
just
check
glad
that.
they
Yeah.
burned the documents because they were the most annoying people this season, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like, I was just like,
They were
oh,
really
everything they
annoying.
were doing, I was like, you guys are just gross people. And then
Yeah.
at the end, it's like they had their nice little kind of selfless moment. I don't know, thinking of like, let's do something crazy, but it might help people out.
I'm
so.
just high enough to do something better.
I
Yeah.
know.
Let's go be good people.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
loved the line
Yeah,
when
that was so good.
Angie said, I wrote it down because I thought it was so funny. She said, what if this whole time we thought we were Ariel and we're
Oh
actually
yeah.
Ursula?
Yes.
Yeah.
You are.
I was like, hello.
That was so
I
good.
loved that line.
I did too, and you know, again, it was the same thing. They were so annoying, but then they had that moment there again, and they kind of made me feel a little bit. And when she had that moment with her mom,
Oh, she's like, she does care.
And she does
Someone
care.
does care.
and I think that really helped too, because I think she really thought that nobody loved her at this point,
Right.
Yeah.
and she had basically made herself look
Yeah.
really bad to her family and her religion, and to have that moment was really good for her too.
We had another moment like that in the Floritza scene when she says, you know, I forget that there's a whole world outside of there. I feel like
Yeah.
when you're inside the walls of
You
the
forget.
prison, you forget
Yeah.
that there's people out there that care about
Mhm.
you. There's people that love you. There's people that are interested and, you know,
Yeah.
are concerned with what happens to you. So that was
Mhm.
like the same feeling.
I agree, and even that scene with them in the
Yeah.
closet, like sniffing the bleach, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really gross. Like,
I
really, you
know.
guys? But then it's also like they're doing that because this situation they're in is so
Right.
crappy, and
Yeah,
they're
they're trying
literally
to
like,
escape.
Right.
it's literally just their way of coping, and
They're also drug addicts.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
but that's
but
their way of
they're-
escape.
but they're
yeah,
addicts
trying to find.
because of that, they don't
Yeah.
think there's anyone out there.
Right,
know,
what you're saying, like
that's
she
true.
doesn't
Waiting
think
on
anyone
them.
cares
Exactly.
about her, and then her mom's there. So
I
it
did
was a
not
good
know
moment.
that you could do drugs that way, by the way.
Yeah, me
I was
either.
like,
Either.
oh, you're pouring this into a mop bucket. This is interesting.
I just
funny.
thought, oh god, it's just I kept thinking,
Yeah.
we're really just burning away the brain cells right,
Right.
there.
But I mean, you know,
Quickly.
their brain cells are already burned or
Burned
whatever
away.
because they're
Yeah.
they're kicking the dead guy over so that they can get to
I
them
know.
to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the room there, in the broom closet, they didn't even care that he was in there either, because I would have been
Yeah.
like, I'm too freaked out.
No, yeah, they were just like, what? Okay, hi.
Yeah. But of course, before we get to the very end there, and that's where we get the moment where Caputo's basically saying, hey, there is that one other area there,
Yeah.
under the pool.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have closed it off, which I thought was a little too convenient again, of course.
That was
they're
a
like,
big room to just close off.
yeah,
too.
but just and just like, oh yeah, well I forgot about that. That's where they're at, and
yeah, and now
yeah,
I
they're
know
probably
that.
really pissed off, and they're all gonna go out and try to attack you. Which of course we had to amp up the drama.
Right.
But it was like, okay, really? Now you
Yeah.
think, because when you think maybe the other reason is they wanted to hide there anyways because they were scared, or
Right.
there were other reasons, and thinking right away they're gonna try to be up for an attack.
You know what I
Yeah.
think it also reveals a lot about Caputo? Like, you know, this whole time he's like kind of helping them, but at the same time they're reminding him, oh, you're still the warden, you're still in charge of all this mess.
Yeah.
The fact that there's this big space there that he's kind of just ignored for
That's
this
what I'm
whole
saying,
time.
the whole time.
Inmates are like cramped up on each other. Again,
Yeah.
he's also part of the problem that he
Yeah.
Yeah.
wants to forget.
But-
It's like, no,
but-
why wouldn't you utilize
But that's
that
what I'm saying. Like
space?
that's what was too weird to me is like nobody's mentioned that the whole entire time. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we forgot to close that off. And like you
Yeah.
said, there was all this extra space there that wasn't being utilized, or whatever the case is. I know you could say, oh, they need permits and they need this to make them livable conditions, or whatever the case is, the standard. It was the fact that it wasn't even brought up to the end. And
Yeah.
then, oh yeah, well they're probably gonna go out there and want to
Well,
be ready for
But
an
they,
attack.
but they had no reason to bring it up though because they didn't know that
I
anyone
mean,
was missing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's either convenient writing or it just shows how like really dismissive and just bad warden he was.
Right. Well,
for
and
just-
aside from him not bringing it up until
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
the way he reacted to it, I felt was not true to his character that
Right,
he's
than
been,
what he's
because
been.
usually he's been
Like
championing
let's care for the
them.
women. Let's make sure that they're safe.
Right.
Don't just go in there and think that they're gonna
Yeah.
be up for violence.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't show them where it was.
I think
No,
he could
yeah.
go look at who they have and be like, oh, Red's missing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suzanne's missing, Tasty's missing.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that he didn't, you know what I mean? He's not even, he's inside this trailer, he's not even seeing who's gone.
Exactly. So
And
it
he
was-
could know that they're not gonna, like, kill
Yeah.
these
Well, it
people,
leads to
but-
that big moment, of course, where now we're left with what's going to happen in season 6, because
Yeah.
all we have is that last moment before they fade to orange. The women are linking hands together. And we see
Ready.
them basically ready for what's to come.
Yep.
Right.
They blow open the door and fades to orange.
Yeah.
So now we have a cliffhanger for season 6.
Another one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
another one. We have so
Another
many
one.
directions.
That-
Just
yeah.
quickly, because I know we're almost out of time. Anyone's theory, because we have so many things like we were talking about. We also had a little bit of Daya's baby in there again too. And is Bennett going to come back, which we thought he might have come back this season? What's going to happen to her baby? What's going to happen with the women separated on the buses here to go into different prisons? What's going to happen with the women that are there and left behind?
Yeah.
What's going to happen with our main women down in the bunker? Like, there's so many things that are going on.
I think we're gonna lose a lot of characters. I have no idea about like casting or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like we probably won't see Daya. Maybe at least for a while anyway. And I think the show will get some new characters, but I think it's really going to focus on that core group that's in there, just because everyone else is going to be separated. I definitely think they'll touch on that, but I kind of feel like there are going to be some characters that we just won't see again.
And
Yeah.
Bailey, of course, and all
Exactly.
those other things.
And I also think that it's just going to go very, very bad with 2 dead guards. 100%. I don't think I think if anything, it could almost get worse because 2 people are now dead.
What do you mean by worse?
Worse
for the
than
women
it
in
was
prison.
before.
Do you
Yeah.
think they're okay conditions?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say I don't think anyone's gonna die as far as like when they storm in. I feel like
yeah, I don't think
Piscatella took that hit, and I'm gonna be positive and say that they're not gonna just shoot and like I think they're gonna get us maybe ruffled up, but they're all gonna
Right.
be fine. They're gonna
Yeah.
they are gonna get split up, and I agree we're gonna follow different people and lose some.
Yeah. Well, obviously, all of these women can't go to the same prison. There's
Yeah.
probably not
Right.
like a prison that can take a whole prison's worth of people.
Yeah.
and I don't think, like, I think it was Boo said that they don't have room in Max for all of them.
Well,
either.
even one of the guards, he was like, "You think we would all let you go to the same place after this?"
Yeah. So I think they'll definitely get split up into prisons. I'm very curious to see how they document that and if they
Right.
will follow certain characters.
Yeah.
Aside from that, just kind of more specific prediction. I really want to see what happens with Pennsatucky and
Me
Coach,
too.
which I wanted to
because
bring that up.
we didn't really get into that too much.
Right.
They
We
might just
ran out of
hide
time.
her out.
I
But
know.
they can't like just stay in that house and live like a normal couple. I
No.
mean, it was just so weird seeing
I
them.
feel like
so
they're gonna try to
comfortable
do that.
with
And I
her-
hate that relationship
with her-
anyways. I'm
with
like,
her
ah,
rapist. But it was such a comfort. It was like we were
meant to
supposed
touch
to
on that,
watch
yeah.
it like we liked that
Yeah.
Oh,
happening.
no, no.
It was very interesting.
made
I
me
think
so
they did it
uncomfortable
because
with
I
that.
think she might have like a sentence where she's not getting out. I could be totally wrong on that, but so it's kind of like, okay, well, this is happening. We have this time. Let's spend it while we can. But I agree. Like, are we supposed to like this? Because I don't.
No, because I don't like it
still
either.
Just, like,
and
weird
I,
as all get out
and I
to
meant
me.
to touch on that, and we didn't. We kind of ran out of time. But I
Yeah.
just I
I
don't like
think
that.
we are meant to like it. I think
No,
it is
I don't think
supposed
it's
to make
supposed
us
to
feel
make
weird.
us feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I don't know what's going to happen with that, and I still and thinking about where's what's going to happen with Sister as well when they go back to Max. And
Yeah.
Sophia. There's so many unanswered questions. I have to go back to April's thing though. I kind of feel like because of the Alex Piper thing, is something going to happen to one of those characters, like to Alex maybe? Is she susceptible to maybe being killed or injured? Because she was already injured, and we saw that happen already with her arm or shoulder being broken from Piscatella. And is that going to be something to really shake up Piper? Because it felt too convenient when all of a sudden she was being proposed, and they're like, okay, everything's fine now, because we were talking about how it went back and forth all these seasons with their relationship, and maybe something dramatic has to happen,
Yeah.
and to end that relationship once and for all, or to move it forward. And I just felt like the way they proposed so offhandedly, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that,
I don't
but
think they're getting a happy ending.
I
No.
stick
I don't think
with
so
my
either.
prediction
Gonna
from
happen.
last week that something's going to happen to
Yeah,
Alex.
I feel like something's going to happen there, and if there is another death or another thing it's going to happen in the first beginning, and then it's going to carry through the
Right.
theme,
Yeah.
the thread of the whole entire season. But I also agree it's going to be a lot tougher for them, and I cannot wait to see what season 6 is going to bring, because I have no idea.
So excited.
We just have a year to wait.
I know,
Right?
right?
Deal.
It
God,
was a good season. It was exciting.
It was a great season, and it was great to have
Go Tasty.
everyone here
Yeah.
together.
Yes.
Yes, I hope she gets that Emmy
Same.
because that was such a great
Well
scene,
deserved.
and just a great cast, great writing, and we look forward to season 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
Until next time, 2018.
Yeah, thank you for
So
watching.
weird.
Where can they find you all until then?
Y'all can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
You can find me at Lesley Face.
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sterling Cates.
And you can find me on Twitter at SMan80. That's SMan80. And thank you to all the fans and everyone
Yes,
that
thank
chime in
you.
all the time in the chat rooms. We appreciate each and every one of you keeping us up to task too, because there's so much going on. Until next time, we'll see you next year, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.